Welcome to an album review for the new Ling tosite Sigure album, Last Aurorally. Sorry if I'm pronouncing the band name wrong. This is a band that I've been aware of for a very long time, but I only started really getting into recently. They've got some classics in their discography. Their first 3 albums are all incredibly chaotic, but also incredibly awesome. It's generally been accepted that they've been in a bit of a decline for the last decade or so, however. Despite that, this is their first album in 5 years, and even though 5 out of 9 songs were singles, it's still new. So how is it? The first single is a new one, Supersonic Aurorally, and it shreds. The band's greatest strength has always been the chemistry of their 2 singers, and that absolutely stands out here. TK of Unravel fame starts off the chorus before giving it to 3-4-5 for the hook, and it's a great effect that just can't be pulled off by many other bands. The chorus of this song is more focused on a J-rock melody than a lot of the previous work from the band, but it shines as well. The band on this song, and really most of this album, is condensing down a lot of the chaos from their earlier stuff. Stuff like the incredibly titled Still a Sigure Virgin showed off an experimental emo sound that the band, quite frankly, does not have as much anymore. It's a lot more slicked back and the sound is quite a bit poppier, but it doesn't really lessen the impact of any of these songs. The production may be a bit cleaner now, but the frenzy is still there and this band still has all the same charms that made those albums work. It's just in a bit of a different context now. Tatsumaite Sennou is the second song, and this is one of the newest singles coming out in mid-2022. The highlight of this song is a fantastic hook that's made even better by a dance rhythm that's not typical for the band. The verse melodies are spectacular on this one too. This song doesn't really progress too much, but it still more than keeps up the energy. It maybe lacks a little in terms of unique songwriting, but I'm such a sucker for good hooks and catchy melodies, I'll give it a pass. I love this song more than I would like to admit, and honestly maybe more than it deserves. The best song in this album is the third one and the most recent single, Marvelous Persona. This is another song carried by the vocals as both singers constantly trade off to provide an energy that once again just can't be matched with only one person doing vocals. The instrumental is consistently off the wall as well. It brings back a lot of the math rock touches from their earlier records and is constantly moving in new directions. A far cry from the relatively weak songwriting found on track 2, this track is stellar in that regard. There's so much happening and yet it all works, from the early breakdown after the first chorus to the crazy math rock style hand clap section towards the middle. You could throw this on one of their albums from their peak like Inspiration is Dead and it'd still be one of the highlights. This rules. The next song, Laser Beamer, is the oldest song on this album, first coming out 4 whole years ago, and it immediately catches you off guard with some really loud synths that sound like, well, laser beams. The songwriting here is pretty solid, but it's not as catchy or memorable as other songs. The synths add some instrumental harshness and are a nice change-up, but they're honestly the only rememberable part of this song. The chorus hook tries to be hype, but it ends up more annoying than anything else. It's not at all a bad song, there's just a lot better on this album. Self-Hacking is next, and this is honestly my least favorite song on the album. It's not bad, but just like Laser Beamer, it's not super memorable. Ling tosite Sigure is at their best when they're creating frantic chaos. This song is just a forgettable quiet, then loud, then quiet again J-rock song. I will say that the hook on this one is one of my favorites on the album, and really the chorus as a whole was pretty solid here. However, there's just not a lot happening in the verses. It also doesn't help that the mixing on this song is pretty ass, so the interesting vocal melodies are buried under parts that I don't care as much about. Alexithymia Spare is next, and it's another new song, and I have mixed feelings on it. On one hand, some parts of this are awesome. The vocals are super energetic here, the breakdowns are absolutely fantastic, and the guitar work is great. On the other hand, the hook is pretty annoying. The song kind of goes in one ear and out the other. The mixing sucks again, and it just goes on for too long. This doesn't really need to be 5.5 minutes. This could have been cut down a good bit. I do like the song overall. It is better than the last 2, and I do think the positives outweigh the negatives here. That being said, there's another problem, which is that the production on this song lacks any real hit. The songwriting is definitely solid here, and there's a lot of cool moments, but the band feels like they're being held back by their own production, which I'm just not a fan of. I like when they go full garage chaos, like on songs like Nakano Kill You from their earlier albums. This sounds too clean and it doesn't work. Neighbormind is the next song, and just like Laser Beamer, it's another 4-year-old single. This one's better than the last few, however. For one, the chorus and hooks are back to being amazing amazing here. It's another song that uses the contrast between the girl and boy singers to its benefit. This one reminds me of track 2 again, as it uses some super energetic singing and crazy guitars to boost what is otherwise some pretty standard J-rock songwriting to incredible heights. And also the drumming's fantastic too. That always helps. Perfake Perfect is the second last song, and it's another old one coming out in January 2021. This rollout has taken ages. This song is pretty similar to Neighbormind. The chorus is once again really good here, and the band's energy is once again elevating what is honestly kinda lackluster songwriting. However, that's really why it's hard to go wrong with this band. Even when the songwriting isn't great, their performances are so awesome that it's hard not to find something to love. Circling back to that songwriting though, the breakdown halfway through this song just does not work for me. Like, at all. It sounds terrible, to be honest. There's another one at the end of the song, and that one sucks too. The first one's better because it has a lead into the chorus that's really fun, but like the actual breakdown part itself sounds like shit. The drumming though, just like Neighbormind, is great, but I really wish it was higher in the mix here. A lot of this song just ends up sounding muddy, and so many cool details get lost in other sounds, which is unfortunate. The last song here is both a new song and the longest song, Metsubou Craft. This one stands out as it takes some cues from post-rock in its long build-up and climaxes. I appreciate how this song eases up in some ways and yet goes even harder in others. The vocals are less frequent and more relaxed, and the band opts for a more melodic instrumental. Yet despite that, the emotions run even higher here than on the rest of the album, and the screams are even harsher at times. This song is all around awesome. I think the focus on a melodic instrumental build-up serves the band super well here and makes for a beautiful track, especially when the girl singer kicks in towards the end for a great emotional climax. The band's decision to deviate from the rest of the album's sound also really works in their favor on what was starting to become a pretty stale second half of the album. This is probably the second best song on the record behind Marvelous Persona, and while there's hints of this sound in their previous work, I'd love for them to commit to it more. So that's last Aurorally. Despite their falling off in recent years, you really can't go wrong with this band. They're so energetic that it's impossible not to get hyped to their songs. Even when the songwriting gets a little lazy, like on certain parts of this album, they're still able to pull it back with just incredibly fun performances. I do wish they would release music more frequently, as 9 songs in 5 years is not a great showing. And also their singer released a solo album and an EP and a bunch of singles in that time. I believe in you guys, you can do that too. But I'm happy we got this, even if only 4 songs were new. It's something. I'm gonna give this one an 8 out of 10. It's definitely one of the better Japanese releases so far this year, and it's just a lot of fun. Like, comment, sub, give me video ideas or album ideas. I'm always down for that stuff. Also, I walked 2.5 miles home today to be able to record this video. If that doesn't deserve a sub, I don't know what does. Bye!